thank you so much to those of you that are here. I know you've taught all day, and I know it's been a long day, but I appreciate you being here on time. Thank you. Let me say, too, that I had a few of you who emailed me or just chatted with me if we saw each other, or texted and said, I tried the I haven't called on you thing and it worked. My class was so much quieter today. Thank you. I see some nods. That's great. I had a few others of you who said, how many times should I have to say it? Because I think I said it 800 and they're still calling out. I visited 2 or 3 of those teachers' classrooms just to see if I could diagnose the problem. And guess what was still happening? Validation. Yeah, it wasn't as frequent, but it was still happening maybe every 10th time. If you're still doing it, even intermittently, it will perpetuate, it will continue. So my recommendation, if I can't get into your classroom quickly, is that you record yourself, maybe use a phone or something, lay something out where the kids won't see it, and just record one of your lessons where you think you're not validating callouts, and see when it's happening, because most likely 99% of the time that is the problem. I've never not seen that be the problem, but I would recommend recording yourself and giving yourself some feedback. Okay, today, since we're talking about reward systems, I thought I should probably use a reward system with you. I should model how to do that. So I have this little jar of stones up here that's really cute. It's over here, a little jar of stones. And what we're going to do is every time you do something I ask, I'll add one little stone to the jar. And it makes a really fun noise. Listen. Don't you love that? Psych, just kidding. We're not really using that. I see that more than anything else in all the classrooms I visit. And it's really ineffective. We're going to talk later about why. This is what not to do. We'll talk about why. What I'm really going to do, though, is up here. And it says, class wallet. Will you say it with me? Class wallet. Thank you. And what I'm going to do is, if I see you following our rules where you're following directions the first time, if you're raising your hand to speak, or for our teachers, we could use teacher expectations, keeping your devices put away, not having side conversations, I will add a $5 bill to our class system up here. And I'll talk more about this later, but I just want you to start noticing components of using a good class reward system. Right now, how I have so many teachers watching up here, listening quietly, pencils, pens in hands, ready to go. Thank you. I will go ahead and add our first buck. Nice job. Okay, we're going to talk today about praise. And in case you don't know, I think this is really interesting. Some of you know I did my master's degree in special education, but then I did an additional certification in something called applied behavior analysis. In the field of applied behavior analysis, there is more research to support positive reinforcement than anything else. There is more research that supports positive reinforcement permanently and quickly changing behavior than any other practice. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time today talking about why that is, talking about why it's so important. Can we come on your notes to the very first page, and we're going to first define praise. Will you fill in for me that praise is the verbal acknowledgement of students' efforts? And by verbal, some of you may or may not know this, and when we say verbal, it can actually be vocal, something you say with your mouth, or nonverbal, something you convey with your body. So when we say praise, we're talking about vocal and nonverbal, or some people call it verbal and nonverbal, acknowledgement of what the student is doing. Will you read that with me? I'll ask, what is praise, and then read the definition. Teachers, what is praise? The verbal acknowledgement of students' efforts. Thank you very much. So I wanted to model for you 3 interaction styles that teachers commonly use. The first one, I think, probably doesn't apply to the majority, but it's toxic enough that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about it. And those are teachers that are primarily negative, who are kind of like a toxin on their grade level or in their classroom. Of course, don't say any names, but raise your hand if you've encountered a negative teacher, a primarily negative or toxic teacher. More than more than is healthy or good. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. On this page are a bunch of sight words that first and second graders should learn so that by the time they get to you in third, fourth, fifth grade, they're really fluent readers. What we're going to do is go through these sight words. Of course, normally you would actually use flashcards, but for sake of you seeing them, we're going to do them on the screen, and I am going to react the way I've seen some teachers act, primarily negative. I will not do anything up here that I haven't seen done in one of our schools, some of them just as recently as last week, okay? What I want you to pay attention to is how does it make you feel emotionally, academically, okay? And we'll talk about it in a minute. How does it make you feel? I'm going to be primarily negative, and Lynn, I used you last time, so I'm not going to use you this time. Let's use, let's see, more in the middle. Tara, can we use you? Tell me your name. Stephanie. Can we use you? Okay, what I want you two to do, you're going to be my kids that kind of talk to each other, maybe you kind of fidget, you're kind of off task, okay? We're going to assume the rest of you, because I've stated so clearly how I expect you to sit during sight words, that you're going to comply with what I ask you to do, and we'll assign these two to be our wiggle worms, okay? Primarily negative, here we go. Students, sit up. You should have your hands on top of the table. You should know this by now. If I've said it once, I've said it a dozen times. Your eyeballs should be up on the screen, and you're going to say the words with me. Get ready. Through, water, because, I can't hear everybody, stay with me. Which, down, no, even, people. Okay, no, what are you doing? No, you're not talking. Your eyes are up here, you're watching the screen. Are you with me? Okay, on the next one, start again on people. People were called where? Would, buried, just. Okay, stop. Okay, I have a problem with you two, because you are not reading the cards the way everybody else is. Are you part of this class? Are you? If you're part of this class, then your eyes are up there and you're saying it with me. Got it? And if you don't want to do that, we can just take a walk and see Mr. Ashton in the principal's office.
You're not going to want to do that.
Your eyes are on the screen. Everybody, start again. We're going to back up on wood. Everybody, get with me. Go. Would, very, just, should, many. Okay. I'm going to have a talk with you two at recess. It's time now to put our stuff away, and we're going to get ready for Go Math. Okay, primarily negative. Here's what I want you to do. We're not going to take long on this, maybe a minute. Letter B's, I'm going to ask you to go first. How does that make you feel? Or you might be saying, well, I laughed, it was funny. Okay, well, think about how would it make a student feel then, okay? What does that do in a classroom's environment? Letter B's, would you go first? If I draw your stick, and of course to kids I would say, if I draw your stick and you're sitting ready, would you tell us what you said? Primarily negative interaction. How did it make you feel? Megan. Yes, Megan, go.
We talked about how, well, I said that I've seen a lot of kids when that happens that are just like, well, why should I listen to you? I don't like you.
Okay, so they develop this attitude of like, you don't like me, I don't like you, so let's see who can win this battle. Guess what? It's usually the kid. Perfect. And I have so many teachers that came back right with me. I just realized I should have done this. You got quiet at my signal, talked like you were supposed to. Thank you very much. Okay, my next stick says, Jill.
Okay. Well, the negative, like we were talking about, it makes us feel uncomfortable. Imagine how we make the students feel uncomfortable. Imagine how the class, the kids around those students that we're talking to feel uncomfortable. We don't want them to be scared of us.
Right.
Plus, I think as we're negative to the kids, we're telling them, stop talking, stop doing that, stop doing that. And then we get frustrated because they don't change the behavior. But we are not saying, hey, this is what you can do. We're just telling them what they can't do.
Right, we tell them what to stop without giving them a replacement. Right. Anyone else feel uncomfortable? As I did that to those two, did you also feel uncomfortable or unsafe? That's a huge report that we often find is when teachers are primarily negative. It doesn't matter if that student is not the one that's picked on. The students in a primarily negative classroom also feel unsafe and resentful. Thank you very much. Let's fill in, if we could. Teachers who are primarily negative tend to have, will you fill this in? Strained student-parent relationships. And then will you also fill in, let me see if it works this time, low student achievement, which shouldn't be a huge surprise to us, because if students don't like you, they're not really going to be willing to work very hard for you. Do you agree? And parents, of course, are the ones that are in the office saying, I don't want my kid in this teacher's class, like anybody but her. I've heard so many bad things about him or her. So primarily negative teachers struggle the most in terms of relationships and performance. So can we go like this, and we'll say primarily negative teachers, like, no, you don't want to be like that. Will you start primarily? Primarily negative teachers. Thank you. Okay, let's come next door. Some teachers are more negative than positive. They recognize that they need to use praise. They recognize that they need to bring in some reinforcement for the kids, some validation, but they still are more negative than they are positive. So we're going to try it with these sight words. And let's assign 2 different kids this time. Mimi, can we use you? And Annie, can we use you? And maybe Chad, if you want to throw in there at some point too. Okay, and you're going to be a little bit disruptive as we go through these. The rest of us, would you check to see if your hands are on top of the table? Would you check if your eyes are up on the screen so that you're ready to read the words with me? Good. I have a lot of people that scooted right in and their eyes are up here. Oh, Mimi, close your mouth. Your mouth is closed. And let's start. And by the way, the corrections, the way I'm correcting her is not wrong. It's just the amount of corrections. Okay, I just want you to notice the amount of corrections. It's okay to correct a kid. Okay, would you read these cards with me starting? No. Ready? No, water, called, were, down. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a minute. You 3, you need to be quiet. You need to be watching up here on the board. Your eyeballs should be up here. Thank you very much. Keep going on through, just, people, which, because. Wow, a lot of people are right with me. Thank you. You guys are still not talking. Your mouths are closed. Your eyes are up here. Don't talk again. It's hard, guys, when I have kids that are talking to each other and we're trying to do sight words, because you can't learn the cards. Everybody should be watching. Everybody should be saying it with me. Start again on because. Ready? Because, where, would, many, even. Uh-oh. You guys still, okay, you're going to have to owe me time at recess now, because I'm not okay with you talking while we're doing sight words. You should be quiet. Okay, we're backing up. Go to even. Ready? Even, should, vary. Good. Everybody did that right with me. Almost everybody did that right with me. That was a nice job. Was there some positive? Yeah. Was there still a lot of negative? Yeah. 1 minute. How did that make you feel? What was the difference for you that time? Letter A's, go first. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming back together right with me. I will add another $1 from our class wallet. Excellent job coming back together. If I draw your stick, will you tell us how did that one make you feel? More negative than positive. What'd you say, Mimi? That was not one of these where I was like, oh, Mimi. That really did say Mimi.
Well, it's hard for me because I was never a bad kid in school, so I always used it. So it's really, from one who's just snickering, chatting, it was very uncomfortable for me. But by the end I was like, why even bother trying? She hates me, whatever. Moving on.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So at first a little bit of shame, at first a little bit of this feels uncomfortable, but then a little bit of who cares? She hates me. What do I have left to live for?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I'll draw one more. How did that one make you feel? Katie?
I liked my partner Jill was saying, she said, because I struggle with that sometimes, we're doing the whole class and then I just focus in on one student who's doing the same thing over and over, and so I like what she said. She just said maybe continue your instruction, but then just maybe go stand by that student.
Okay.
See if that helps.
So use proximity?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Anyone still feel uncomfortable, unsafe, even though it wasn't happening to you? Maybe not as much that time. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we forgot what we were doing. You know, with the words, it was like, wait, what are we doing? We got so distracted by that, and like, we're a little frustrated with the kids, the disruptive kids, that we didn't know what to do. And it was just like, wait, what are we doing again? Like, I totally forgot the words we just went through and why we were just doing that.
Okay, I love that. You said 2 D words, distracted, disrupted. Can we do it with her? Distracted, disrupted. I love that when you're constantly giving attention to a child for problem behavior, that it's distracting to what task we're supposed to be working on. Perfect. Teachers that are more negative than positive, see if this works, tend to have adequate student-parent relationships. In other words, these are parents that say, yeah, she was okay. He was okay. It was good enough. And they tend to have moderate student achievement. So their kids make gains, but maybe not as much as they could have made. If you ask me, this is still not the type of teacher we want to be. So can we, if you don't mind, say more negative than positive? And again, shake our heads, because that's still not where we want to be. Will you start more negative? Ready? More negative than positive. Still not quite there. More positive than negative. Here's what I want to do next. This is how it should be. Ready? This time we're going to go through the same sight words. You're going to say them with me. But I want you to notice how using positive feedback and using praise with the kids should boost motivation. And because this tends to work, I know this seems contrived, but it really does tend to work. Cassie, Celeste, I'm going to call on you two. Is that okay? My 2 cute sea girls. And we're going to, look how positive that was. I didn't even mean to. Just kidding. You guys are going to be a little bit disruptive, but after the second time that I correct you, I want you to join the rest of the class in what we're doing, okay? More positive than negative. What do you feel this time? What do you notice this time? Okay, students, I'd like your eyes up on our screen. I'd like you oh good, I see Sherida was already watching and Paige was already watching. That was perfect. I want your eyes up on this screen. Cassie, Celeste, your mouths are closed. Your eyes should be up on the screen, just like Marnie, just like Jessica. Our hands are on top. Mimi, I didn't even tell you to put your hands on top of the table. You were just doing it. Excellent. You're going to watch up here. Your mouths are closed. And say the sight words with me, starting on people. Ready? People, down, should, which, water, no, were, through, even. Okay. I'm going to pause because you guys are right with me. This is fantastic. I have so many kids watching, so many kids saying it right with me. Woo! I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and add another buck. Can we start again on just? Ready? Just, where, many, very, called, because, would. Right with me. Excellent. Nice job, guys. Thank you very much. Differences that time. Let's just take a couple hands. Okay, let's talk to partners. 1 minute. Difference that time, letter B's go first. If I draw your stick, would you tell us, Sarah Kay?
So Tori and I were talking, and Tori mentioned specifically that she felt like there wasn't pointing out of different kids, that she felt a lot more relaxed, that there wasn't being pulled apart. And she commented that when we did have that stop, it was to have that verbal praise. And I kind of added on to that even if you had had kids who had started kind of looking around or not being with you each time, having that praise, everybody is with me, everyone is doing so great, wants them to pull forward so that they can have that pat on the back. Like, yeah, I can do this.
I am doing great. I am watching, promise. Okay, so the idea that you felt more relaxed, it felt safer, it felt like, okay, I'm willing to do the work, even if I was kind of wandering, I'm willing to do it because she's validating the effort. Okay, I'll draw one more. Trina? Emma?
Sorry.
Oh, you're back there.
No, I'm just thinking.
I was agreeing with that comment too, because I noticed on the other times I was really frustrated with the kids that were getting yelled at, and I remember that growing up too. I was always really annoyed with the kids who had to be redirected all the time.
Okay.
So I didn't feel that anger towards them. It just felt more like a classroom community because I wasn't mad at my classmates for disrupting everything.
Do you know what? I've actually never even thought of that, but I love that it promotes classroom community. If the teacher's not constantly frustrated with a student, it prevents the students from being frustrated with each other and allows them to maintain their good relationships. So I love that. Thank you. Really good comments, really good partner share. Thank you. I will add another class buck. Oh my word, you've already filled up the entire first row. Love it. Go ahead.
And so, do you think it's bad? I talked to my kids about how many of you guys have ever had to wait for somebody because how does that make you feel when we have to stop the discussion and you're doing what you're supposed to do and you have to sit and wait for somebody else so that they would remember that feeling. And so, do you think that's causing, do you think that's a bad?
Yeah, I would never, ever, ever recommend the stop and wait method. When
I'm saying, like, when I have to, like I'm telling them, for those of you guys that are doing really well and listening, how does it make you feel when you have to stop because other kids are talking and we have to, and so then most of them say it feels frustrating.
Okay.
So then they don't want, so I'm just saying, think about your friends.
Oh, so have that conversation
Right,
with them.
so having that
Okay.
conversation with them so that they can relate to how it feels
Perfect.
to having to, being frustrated, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but the teacher is, has to start over again because the other kids aren't,
So essentially you validate those kids that are doing what they're supposed to and say thank you and have an honest conversation with them about this is how it makes us feel when kids don't do this and try to enlist their
And so try to think about your
support.
friends.
Okay.
And, try to listen because you're wasting your friends' art time.
Perfect.
That's what it is it's art time. And if we don't have very much art time, we won't get things done.
And they want that art
If-
time.
If we have to keep stopping. Because,
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Okay, let's go finishing these notes on number 3. More positive than negative, these teachers tend to have, will you fill in, successful student-parent relationships. These are the teachers that the parents say, I have got to have that teacher. I want my child in that class. I don't care what I have to steal or who I have to bribe. I want my child in that class. They love these teachers. And, not surprisingly, the students tend to be high achieving because the more they like you, the more they will work for you. Okay, I might need to dim the lights. Let me tell you the story about that photo before we go back to it. So that was my Isabel when she was in kindergarten. And we had Miss Renee Hawks at North Park. She's now at Cedar Ridge. Anybody know Renee? Okay, here's what's hilarious. Those of you that just raised your hand, smiled when you raised your hand. That's how I feel about Renee. I can't say her name without smiling and maybe tearing up a little because she was that teacher in my child's life. She was so phenomenal. And part of why she was so phenomenal is because she was a lot more positive than negative. She did correct errors, she did correct problems, but she was primarily positive, warm, and nurturing when she interacted with her kids. So Isabel comes into the kitchen on the very last day of school, and she's wearing this brand new dress that we had just gotten her for the last day of school. And it was a yellow gingham pattern on the bottom, and then it was white on the top. And we had just gotten this very expensive dress, and she comes into the kitchen and she holds it out and she says, Mom, look. And she twists a little bit, and I'm like, what did you do? Because she had written in Sharpie, I love Miss Renee. And then she had messed up a little bit, so she had tried to draw a heart, but it didn't quite work, so then she just scribbled it out. And she just had this big black blotch. And I was like, instantly all these things went through my head. Do you know how much money that was? I can't believe you just did that. You haven't even worn it once. And there's nothing I can do about it now, right? Like, I don't care what stain remover you have, it's not taking that out. So I did this. Wow, I love it. Look how cute that is. Miss Renee's gonna love that. We talked later about how you don't ever do that ever again, but can you see it? I love Miss Renee, black blotch. This is a teacher who is a really successful teacher, primarily because one of the reasons she's more positive than negative. So what I want us to do, if you don't mind, we'll say more positive than negative because that's where we want to be. Ready? More positive than negative. When we praise, we want to be positive. Teachers who are more positive than negative, also called effective teachers, we fill in at the bottom, tend to praise frequently. Anyone know the ratio that you should use, how often you should praise for every correction you have to give? 10 to 1, 5 to 1, 7 to 1. Research shows that you can get a pretty good effect, one of those high achieving student effects, good parent relationships, if you use 4 to 1. Highly effective teachers can get as many as 8 or 9 praises for every correction they have to give, but 4 to 1 will get you the same effect. That doesn't mean that I don't correct when there's a problem. Of course you correct when there's a problem. It just means you're quicker to notice opportunities to praise than you are to correct. Let me tell you a quick example. I was going to share this later, but I think I'll share it now. I was with a cute kindergarten boy this morning, and he had crawled under the table, and he was really content just to sit there. Do you know which kid I'm talking about? Have you seen this kid? He's sitting under the table, and we had tried a correction first. We had said, let's call him Jonah. Jonah, I need you sitting up in your seat, dude. You should be on your bottom watching the board. Did it work? Mm-mm. So guess what we did? It's easier to praise than to correct. So I said to the teacher, do you care if I just do this really fast? Sure, go for it. I said, oh my goodness, Mrs. L, I'm loving how many kids are sitting in their seats, their eyes are on the board. That's fantastic. Look how many kids are right with you. And then I said, would it be okay if I started passing out just a little Smartie to every kid that's right with you? Would that be okay? And she says, sure. Well, guess what happens a minute later? Can I show you? Can you picture this? This is a head popping up above the table. He sees the Smartie sit down on the kid on this side and the kid on this side, and pretty soon he's in his seat, and he scooted up. And he's watching like this. And after a minute, oh my goodness, Jonah, you're in your seat too. Thanks, dude. Let me hand you a quick one. Now, we're going to talk in a minute about food rewards, but wasn't that easier than saying, okay, we better call the principal, we better restrain this kid, we better take him out of the classroom? So much easier to look for opportunities to praise than correct. So these teachers praise frequently. Can we say frequently? This is going to feel like overkill 5 times to remind us they do it a lot. These teachers praise frequently, 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 frequently. Thank you. These teachers also praise, will you fill in genuinely and not as a reprimand. Have you heard the teachers that do this? They go, oh wow, I sure love how Tara's eyes are on the board, and I sure love how Elise is watching, and Paige is with me. And you can tell by their tone of voice that what they really mean is, I wish the rest of you would do that too. Well, then just say that. If that's what you want, it's okay to say, I need everybody's eyes up on the board, just like Tara is watching super closely, Elise is watching, thank you. Paige is right with me. Wow, look, as soon as you start to praise genuinely like that, and you start to show the kids that they can earn your attention for meeting your expectations, you will see them start to meet your expectations more. So they praise genuinely, not as a reprimand. Can we do it like this? These teachers praise genuinely, not as a reprimand, like we're reprimanding and then we'll do it the right way. These teachers praise genuinely, not as a reprimand. So first be kind of fake. These teachers. These teachers praise genuinely, not as a reprimand. Oh. And now the right way, these teachers. These teachers praise genuinely, not as a reprimand. Thank you. Wow. And again, I still had everybody responding. Thank you very much. I will add another last dollar, and let's go to reward systems. So we said praise was the verbal acknowledgement of students' efforts. Okay, reward systems, what you write down is the tangible acknowledgement of students' efforts. In other words, what we give them for meeting our expectations. We are going to talk a little bit about 3 things that must be in place for your reward system to work. If you're kind of struggling like, I don't love my reward system, I thought it would work better, I found it on Pinterest, it was so cute, why aren't they responding? Self-assess as we go through this and ask yourself, is this the problem? Is this maybe where it's falling short? 3 things you have to have. Number 1, the system must reward appropriate, will you fill in, group behavior. In other words, you should have a system in place to reward your entire group for meeting your expectations. Any idea why? Why would you want to reward the entire group for doing what they were supposed to do? Yeah, Becky.
Then they tell each other to behave, like, so pay attention, and you don't have to do it.
Okay, so they know that we want to earn the group point, they want to help each other, they want to make it a group effort. Okay, yeah.
I just have a clarifying question. When we say group, do you mean whole class or do you mean like yellow table, blue table? You know what I mean?
Okay, good question. Do you mean whole class or yellow table, blue table, red table? Yellow, blue, red, that would be small group, pockets of students who are reinforced. This would be whole class, yeah. Let me say it in a, I know this is not very professional, but I heard it once really simply and it's always stuck with me in a behavior analysis class. You get the behavior you pay attention to. And that's it. Can we say it together? You get the behavior you pay attention to, which you can fill in. In other words, if I want my group engaging in these behaviors, following my directions, raising their hand to speak, respecting each other, then I have to pay attention to them as a group for engaging in those behaviors. That's the first thing you absolutely must have. Let's go to the next one. Your reward system, second thing, it must be highly visible. In other words, everybody in the classroom needs to be able to see it. Will you say it with me? And we're going to say, we'll say the system must be highly visible, like it's easy for you to see. Ready? The system must be highly visible. You got it. Okay, let me tell you why I was chuckling and you were not at the beginning of class. Because when I said we're going to use this jar, and it's got all these fun marbles in it, and I said it'll be right up here, probably 12 to 15 of you that I could see immediately went like this. And we're shifting to try to see the jar. Where is it? What is she talking about? What are we supposed to be doing? I would throw this on the floor and smash it if I wouldn't get in huge trouble for it. Here's one of the main problems with this system. Teachers who use jars and set them on the front table is that they're just not visible enough. That's one problem. Just not visible enough. If my front row people can see it, that's great. My second row people can just actually show me like this. If you can see it clearly, somewhat, or not at all. Ooh, that's way too many thumbs down and thumbs sideways. Okay. Easy to see means everybody has a view of it. Easy to see means everybody has a view of it. Can we say it together? Easy to see means everybody has a view of it. Why? Because if this represents your efforts, you earning these little stones represents your efforts, you want to be able to see the effort that you have made. Kids like to be able to track their progress and see how they're doing. Micah?
Okay, so I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here for a second.
Okay, go.
So last week I went and bought a big vase, clear vase, and I bought a whole bunch of big fuzzy fuzz balls. So with my kids, I tell them that they're giving me more fuzzies, I drop them in, and so now I'm gonna ask you. This is how I have it in my classroom. So I've got 4 shelves, and I have my glass jar sitting up here, so like I've got a podium here, and I've got a shelf here that all the students can see the glass jar from and the bucket of fuzzies.
Okay, so it's not like this where it's on a front table, it's posted
It's at least up this high.
on a shelf.
Yes.
Okay, tell you what, let's talk about number 3 and then I'm gonna ask you to answer your own question. Everybody go dun dun dun.
That's what I was thinking.
He knows it's coming, oh no. Let's talk about number 3 and you can see. So you should have filled in everyone in the room needs a clear view of it, whatever reward system you're using, even the back row of kids should be able to see it. Tip, if you have a rug area in your classroom, you should have something posted there too. So up here you notice I have our class wallet and our bucks, our class bucks that we're earning, if we had time throughout the course that I said, okay, we're all going to come and sit over here, we're going to sit in this big open area, I would also want to have something posted here as a way, let me stop there because some of you are nodding. Why would you do that? Why would you want to have something for instruction as well as something on a rug area? A couple hands, Sarah.
Number one, so it's visible for them so they can see that that's still applicable even when we're over here, but also to remind me that I need to continually enforce them for that, because if it's on the other side of the room and I'm teaching over here, I forget to give them their class points because I'm not by it.
I love that. So she's saying it's a cue to the students. These expectations are still in place. It's a cue for the teacher. I still need to reinforce appropriate behavior. Cue for them, cue for you. Can we say it with her? Cue for them, cue for you. I thought I saw one or two other hands. That covers it. You nailed it. Should I add a class book? I won't yet. We'll come back to that. Okay. You would want to post additional validation there. Let me tell you a scary story. It wasn't really scary. It could have been, though. I went to a third grade teacher's classroom last year, and we had done so well with meeting expectations at seats. I had so many kids that were doing much better, that were raising their hands. The teacher was really praising them for following directions the first time. It was looking so much more effective. And then we went to the back, so they're facing the front of the room, their instruction faces forward. Then they went to the back of the room to be at the rug for a class discussion on vocabulary. So we go back to the back of the classroom, and I say to her, did you still want me to model this lesson? She says, yes. So I sit in the teacher's chair, and immediately I have a couple kids who start poking each other and being fidgety. And so I correct those two. Corey, James, your eyes are up here. I need you right with me, dude. Both of you, eyes are up here. And then I started to say, oh my goodness, look how many kids do have their eyes already here and they're ready to start with me. Thank you very much. Let me add. There's nowhere to add anything. There's nothing I can do to reinforce and validate those kids who are meeting the expectations. And I thought, you know what, it's okay, I can do this. I can be engaging enough and interesting enough that even without reinforcing their appropriate behavior, they'll want to stay with me and do this lesson. Guess what I turned into? More negative than positive, because without a way to validate their efforts, the efforts of kids who were right with me, it turned into constantly correcting and constantly saying, oh, I need you with me, your eyes are up here. Nope, we're not touching our neighbor. Everybody's hand should be in their laps. It took so much more effort, so much negative energy. So put a star around this, put a cloud around this, do something to remind you, even though it says tip, that's a really important piece of a reward system, is that you validate their efforts in both areas. Validate seats, validate rugs. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Validate at seat, validate on rug. Can we say that? Validate at seat, validate on rug. Okay, last one. The system must offer an attainable, will you fill this in? And countable requirement. Let me tell you, reason number 2 why I hate this system. Because so many teachers think, well, the jar is so lovely, and the stones are so colorful, and this is the one I hear more than anything else, and it makes such a great noise when you drop it in. Oh, the kids are gonna love that. Listen again. Oh, effort. Validation. Yes. This is not attainable. This is not countable. Do you know how many marbles, stones it would take to fill this entire jar? Guess, just guess. 200, 90, 300. Guess what? I don't know because I stopped counting at 150. This was 150 and I was like, I'm done. I can't, I know I want to drive this point home, but maybe 350? I don't know. And if I don't know, guess what? They sure as heck don't know either. Not to mention, how frustrating is it for a student for you to say, oh my goodness, Good job following my directions. Everybody pushed in their chairs quietly. Thank you very much. You only have to do that 298 more times before we earn a class party. And I hear a lot of teachers who say this, oh yeah, but it's gonna be a really good class party. We're gonna have popcorn, they're gonna wear their pajamas, we're gonna watch a movie, maybe we'll even get ponies and a merry-go-round. They think, mistakenly, if I make this party so fantastic, they're gonna wanna work for it 350 times. This is false. Will you say it? This is false. I don't know how I can stress that enough. If you require kids to meet your expectations 350 times or 200 times or 100 times before you reward those efforts, you're going to have shutdown. I think that's on our notes somewhere. Is that on there? Okay, so I did a picture here, but you saw it up here. Yeah, let's fill in. Shutdown quickly occurs, which means the students realize, I'm never going to get there. This is too overwhelming, so why bother? It's much more fun just to kind of be loosey-goosey and have fun with our peers than it is to try to get 350 stones in the jar. Celeste?
No, that's so true, because in my student teaching, my second half, I was with a teacher who used the marble system, and he saw in my room marbles, right?
I didn't remember that, so don't feel criticized.
Oh, I got that from her, and I will never forget her telling me how wonderful it was. But then she said, and once we get to the top, past the top, they get a class party, and I'm thinking, oh, that's cool, that's awesome. But the whole time I was teaching, they never even got close to the top. And she goes, by the way, they rarely get to the top, so I never have to throw a class party. And I was like, oh, okay. But she goes, but this system is awesome. And I was like, okay. And being a student teacher, you look up to that teacher and you're like, okay, well, she says this works. And
so you take them at their word.
I took it at her word. And,
yep.
And in my class this year so far, I had a sub come in half day Friday because my baby was sick, and he came and he goes, I kept trying to use the marble system and it just wasn't working. They wouldn't listen, they wouldn't do this. And I was like, well, that teacher said it worked, so
so try harder, it must work.
Yeah, so take away more marbles. And I didn't know the boy told his mom he was scared of all the marbles getting taken out. Oh. And so I don't know, it validates to me these feelings that I've had in student teaching.
These hesitations.
Does this really work that well? Because I don't see how it is, so I'm changing it.
Yay, everybody clap for Celeste. Yay! Do you feel like it's an AA meeting? I've heard a lot of teachers who say, as long as you maybe try dropping it from a higher level, because if they can really hear the clink, it really validates to them their efforts. You can smash it in there, it's not going to make a difference. This is too many. Micah, coming back to you, dude.
Pulling myself out of the bus now.
Oh, good. Okay, let's clap for Micah. Yay! Just kidding.
So, when I did this, I really had put a lot of thought into it.
Okay.
And what I did is I thought of an amount, and I gave that amount to the kids. And when I went to class, some of them had said, is there an amount, or do we just have to fill it up? And I said, nope, there's an amount. And so I gave them 60. I showed them all. We even looked in our bucket today because the bucket is there, and I said, look, this is where we're at. So it is countable, and they do see it.
Okay, so let's do this. Countable means, I should have clarified this, I'm glad you said that. Countable means they have to be able to count how many they have and how many they have left. It has to be countable for the students, not just a number attached to it. So that's a great clarification to make. Show me with your fingers if you know how many we have earned so far from our class wallet. 6. How many left to earn, everybody? 4. Yeah, that's easy to count. That's what I mean by countable. It has to be something you can quickly see how many we have and how many we have left. Let's go ahead and I want to talk about Becky. She was a teacher I worked with last year. And I want to talk about what we did for her because she was using the stone system. When I first got in there, she was using the stone system. And I said, okay, let's do a couple things. First of all, we need a way to reward the whole class so that it's visible for everyone to see and it's countable. They can count how many they have, they can count how many more they need, and they feel like, yeah, that's easy enough, I can work for that. So here's what we did. Let's see if I can point here. We put up these, she had blue stickers, so we put blue stickers in rows of 5 up on the board. How many total do they have to earn? 15, that's easy, that's countable, right? And then she had these were the stones that she was putting in the jar. We just put little magnets on the back, little discs that you can buy at Walmart. We put little magnets on the back. And then she did this, I didn't tell her to, but I thought it was really wise. She put her rewards poster, she moved it from where it used to fit over the door and put it on, the whiteboard cuts off right there on the left, but she put it on the right so that kids could see following the rules is connected to receiving tangible validation for it. And so then as the kids followed her directions, as they raised their hand to speak, she was adding, and I was adding, we were doing it together, adding a little marble saying, oh my goodness, I have so many kids that just raised their hand quietly. Thank you very much, let me add a marble. So I left a bunch of blank space for you in case you want to take notes on this. I'll show you a couple other examples in a minute, but some things that we changed that really made a difference in her classroom. She's got whole group recognition now. She's posted their progress. She has posted progress so they can see how many they've earned, how many more. And the reward is countable and attainable. I can meet the teacher's expectations 15 times. That's easy. I can do that 15 times. And I'll show you what they earned as soon as they filled it up in a sec. She also moved the rules poster. Even though, you guys, it fits so gorgeously above her door, and that was just organizationally the best place for it, it should be connected to the reward. Do you know that? Rules, rewards, connected. We do it. Rules, rewards, connected. They should know that that's how they earn the reward, is by meeting the rules, meeting the expectations. And then she also started with an expectation, by which I mean she had a really honest conversation with her kids, and she said, you guys, I noticed we've had so many call-outs, we've had so many kids being really loud. I'd like you to start raising your hand if you have something to say. She was very clear about what she expected. When I see that you raise your hand to say something in our classroom, I'm going to start adding magnets. I'm going to start adding these magnets so that you can fill up this chart. And when we fill up this chart, then we get to watch something called a kid snippets. Raise your hand if you've heard of kid snippets. Is that familiar? Anyone? Okay, good. So once they filled up that entire 15 frame, they got to watch a kid snippet. So I thought it would be fun if you watched one, because I want you to see, this is only, I think, a 3-minute video, and they're all between 2 and 3 minutes. But I want you to see how fun these are. And I want you to realize you can get quite a lot of mileage for only 2 or 3 minutes of reinforcement, okay? We're ready, go.
Okay kids, time to learn the rules on the bus. Most accidents happen outside of the bus. Be sure to look both ways before crossing the street. Oh yeah, I got another important rule. The students are not allowed to drive. Always cross the street in front of the bus. It's my turn. No jumping on the ceiling. Did you mean no jumping on the seats? No. I don't think the kids can jump on the ceiling. That's why it's a rule. Achoo! No chewing on the bus. Chewing? Use your quiet voice. Can we sing the wheels on the bus? Sure, you can sing songs. The wheels on the bus. There's no singing on the bus. Well, actually, it's okay to sing on the bus. Round and round, all through the town. Quiet! to what I was saying, always stay 10 steps from the moving bus so the bus driver can see. If you get car sick and you feel like you're going to throw up, then throw up on that kid. Why me? Because you're sick, remember? You already feel sick anyways. Can I take my goldfish on the bus? Any pets are not allowed to go on the bus. Only horses can go on the bus. No, that's not really a rule. What are you laughing at? Not laughing on the bus. Okay, no more rules. It's time to go. Teacher, I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Guess what? I have shown that to kindergartners and first and second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth graders, and even my little brother, who's a junior in college, loves these videos. I've never yet met an audience of kids who didn't love these or who thought they were too young. So 3 minutes, that's all we have to do. Once this is filled up, it's 3 minutes of short reinforcement. That's not all we're gonna do, so stay with me for a few more minutes. We're gonna talk about how you beef this up, but let me tell you what this teacher said. They fill up, the very first time we implement this, her third graders, by lunch, had earned a kid snippets. And by the end of the day, guess what? They entered another kid snippets because we were frequently praising and reinforcing appropriate behavior. And she says to me after school, I love how much better they are. I love that they're raising their hands and they're quiet, but I don't have time to show 2 kid snippets a day. Even though they're 2 to 3 minutes, I don't have time to do that twice a day. Do you agree with that? You don't have time to do that. So remember that delivering that reinforcement should be gradually faded. In other words, we really, really, really heavily reinforce the kids at the beginning when we're training them to meet our expectations, and then we begin to pull back on it. So instead of giving a class buck every 2 minutes, then I go to every 5 minutes, then I go to every 10 minutes, and you gradually fade off of that. So that if you were using the kid snippets format, meaning they fill up something easy, they fill it up quickly. Maybe they fill up their chart twice a day, like she did at first, to once a day. Maybe then they fill it up every other day. To every 2 to 3 days. Some people say, but should you go like once a week or once a month? Like they're only watching kid snippets once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month? No, they're short enough, they're quick enough that I think every 2 to 3 days is about the maximum amount I would fade it to. So they're getting 10 or 15 opportunities for recognition every 2 to 3 days by the time you fade it. So we're going to say delivery should be gradually faded and go like this. We're going to start like you're doing it all the time and gradually fade it so you're doing it a little bit less and less and less and less, but you're still doing it. Okay, can we start delivery should be? Delivery should be gradually faded. Are you still doing it? Are you still reinforcing? Yes? It's just not as often as it was at first. Thank you very much. Okay, also remember, okay, here's the other part that I loved about this. This was genius for this teacher. She said, okay, here's my other struggle with this, is that I love that they're earning these short reinforcements, but like we had a field day and I really want the kids to be able to earn their field day. It's something that the whole third grade plans, it's something we all work toward, and I really want my kids to earn the right to be there. Guess what? They still can. What we did is we added, will you fill in a long-term component where every time they filled up the chart, they earned a letter toward a bigger reward. Okay, so once they fill up all 15, they get to watch a kid snippets, but then they also earn the letter F on the board. And then we took the magnets down, and once they filled it up again, they got to watch a Kids Snippets, but then they also earned the letter I. We take it off and start over. Oh, we're gonna fill it up. We fill it up, they get to watch a Kids Snippets, and they earn a letter E, and then an L, and then a D. And once the word field is written on the board, then they got to have the field day. Yeah, question?
So preschoolers, is that too young to add this component that's now seems more complicated?
Good question. I would not do this with preschoolers. I don't even know if I would do it with kindergartners where they're there half day. I think I would implement this in first grade where they're there all day. And otherwise, I would use the 10, maybe 15 opportunities to be reinforced. Great question. Because I told you should have 2 places for validation, one at the rug and one at their seats. Quick tip that when students do earn all of their points at the rug, so let's suppose this one is filled up, and let's suppose we have one over here, and this one is filled up too. You can still let them watch the Kids Snippets or do whatever it is they do for filling that one up on the rug, but you don't have to have another set of letters over here, because don't you know that would be kind of complicated. Once they fill it up here, oh great, we get to watch a Kids Snippets, but I'm now going to add the letter E to movie or whatever it was. You can still keep working with the same message on the board. So if you'll fill that in, when students earn all points, they still earn the short-term reward, but the letter is added to the existing long-term reward. I'd like to show you 2 more examples and then ask you to think about how you might tweak your own reward system, okay? So this teacher in 2nd grade did kind of the same thing, but she created boxes, and she just said that once each box represented a group of 5. Once they filled all of those up, they got to have the Kids Snippets. Can you see the KS? Kids Snippets? And they were working toward, each time that was filled up, they got a letter toward the word Oreo because she happened to know the person who was the school mascot, and he had said he would visit their room. The kids thought it was so fun. Our good friend Chris here in the front row, can I show him yours? Had this jar. This is not the glass system. Chris, how many are in each row?
10.
Is it 10? Okay. Idea?
Yeah, 10.
Okay. How could she use this, still talking about the concepts we've discussed where it's countable, it's attainable? I'll give you a clue. It's not fill up the entire jar and then access reinforcement. Say it loud. 1 row. Yeah, every time they fill up a single row, then they get something brief, something short, and when the entire jar is filled, then they get the longer term reinforcement. Okay, so would you note on your paper, I've given you some space, would you take a few minutes and think about, are there ways you need to tweak your reward system? Are there things you could do that would make that more effective for your setting? Let me say this for art people, if you're in the BTS ALP program, I would not add a long-term component. I would do short-term only. Yep, they get 10, they earn something. They get 10, they earn something. If you're a specialist, I would not do the long-term component. Good question. I just had a super great question. Can I use yours, Megan? Mm-hmm. She said, do you have other ideas for short-term rewards besides the Kids Snippets? On the very last page of your notes is a page called Reward Ideas. Some short-term 2 to 3 minute ideas, as well as some long-term things that kids could work toward. And I didn't put anything on here that I haven't seen successfully used in a classroom. Of course, there's space because you could always add something else of your own, but these are ideas that I have seen work and that I know work with lots of age groups. Good question. Okay, teachers, guess what? I had wanted to do some partner talk and some share out to get some ideas from the group, but if we do that, we're not going to have time to talk about small group and individual rewards. And I've had a lot of teachers asking about those, so let's cover those before we talk about things you might change. These are two can-haves. Whole class reward, must have. You should have something in place that rewards whole class efforts, whole class behavior. So will you do it with me like this? And we're going to say whole class must have. Ready? Whole class must have. Small group, like pockets of students, groups of students, you can have. Individual rewards, you can have. Those are things that you can have if the whole group isn't enough to get the behavior that you want. So let's talk about, I'm going to just spend briefly a little bit of time on small groups before we go to individual. My recommendation is that you do not, with your small groups, only give points to the group that performs, will you fill in, the fastest or the best. Here's what I hear happening all the time when I visit classrooms, that teachers will say something like, okay, I want everybody to put their name at the top of their paper. Let's see which group does it first. I'm looking, is it going to be my yellow table, my blue table, my red table? Which group can get it done first? Oh, and guess what? Maybe all the kids have written their names, but the teacher feels obligated to pick one, and she'll say something like, blue. Blue group, you get a point. And she'll walk over and add a point to the blue group's team. What does the blue group do? Yeah. What do the rest of the kids do? Okay, we'll talk in a minute about something you can do instead, but when you do this, when you only give a point to one group that does it the fastest or the best, it's called, will you fill in, a competitive group contingency. And you're going to see in a minute some problems with this. Can we just start by saying competitive group contingency? Ready? Competitive group contingency. I'll take 2 or 3 hands, please, from people who haven't said anything yet. Can you think of problems this would create? Just off the top of your head, Chad.
It could positively reinforce one group and negatively reinforce it or punish it.
Okay, so you reinforce the group that does it, but you punish all the groups who also maybe did it, but they didn't do it as quickly as the other group. Great, yeah, Ashley.
This made me think of something I did last year. I probably did that. And I remember I had one table where there was like one little girl and she was not the fastest, and everyone else would like have their stuff ready to go, and they'd be like sitting in their power position, and then she'd be a little bit slower, and I'm like, come on, you know, and she would come up to me and she's like, they're really not talking very nice, and it wasn't like promoting cohesiveness like among them. It was just, let's get to it, you know, and they were getting on her case. And
I love it. It's called competitive contingency for a reason, because it promotes competition. It promotes this idea that if you're not the fastest and if you're not the best, then your efforts don't count. What I'm going to recommend instead is that you create what's called a cooperative group contingency. Will you say it with me? Cooperative group contingency. In other words, here's how this works. All groups that meet the requirement get a point. So let's suppose I had teams 1, 2, 3, and 4. Red, yellow, blue, green. It doesn't matter what they're called, but let's suppose I had those and I said, okay, I'm watching for which tables quietly pass down their papers and are sitting back in power position, ready to listen. Go. And I give the kids time to do that. Oh my goodness. 5, 4, 3. Oh my goodness. Group 1 was doing that. Group 2 had it. Group 4 was ready. Awesome job. Thank you very much. So you acknowledge every group that meets the expectation. If they meet the expectation, they get the validation. Can you do it? If they meet the expectation, ready? If they meet the expectation, they get the validation. You don't have to just pick the one that does the best. Natalie took my clicker. Not really. Once the group reaches a pre-specified amount, then the group will get a reward. So for instance, I might have up here the number 10. And it would be, as soon as your group reaches 10 points, then you get whatever it is I pass out as a reward. So where I have class money on the board, I might do a class buck. Oh my goodness, group 1 got to 10 points. I'm gonna quick give $1 to everybody in group 1. Group 4, oh, a little bit later, they got to 10 points. Everybody in their group also gets $1. Group 3 got to 10 points, everybody in there. And the points just keep starting over. As soon as you get 10, you get the reward. So you're working against a goal, or you're working toward a goal, not against each other. Group points start over where you fill in at varying times. Okay, but let me tell you what commonly happens. A lot of times when kids realize, oh, we can all get points, it's not just the group that does it fastest or first, then guess what? They all start responding. It boosts motivation, and pretty soon what I've seen in most cases is teachers don't even have to use group points anymore. It's enough to use the whole group points again, because they realize all of us can be validated. Okay, so we're gonna go like this. Competitive group contingency, that's gonna promote competition in your room, and it's gonna create shutdown for kids that don't meet the expectation as quickly. And then we'll say cooperative group contingency, like, yep, everybody can be included, everybody can do it. Will you start competitive group? Ready? Competitive group contingency and cooperative. Cooperative group contingency, thank you. Okay, last section, let's talk about individual rewards. In other words, acknowledging a single student for his or her behavior. A couple things I found are absolutely necessary for individual reward systems to work. First of all, decide ahead of time when students can be automatically paid. Are there behaviors for which they automatically receive the class dollar or the class ticket, whatever it is you use? So maybe that is, oh, you turned in your homework, you automatically get $1. Your parent signed your planner, you automatically get $1. You got all your morning jobs done, you filled up your water bottle, you automatically get $1. Here's why I recommend this. Annie, you know Jed. Chad, you know Jed. Cute Jed. I love Jed with all my heart. But he didn't have a really good relationship with one of his teachers one year. I won't say which grade, but my daughter was in his class, and she would come home frequently and say, Mom, I know Jed's annoying, but I still feel so bad for him because he never gets $1. And today, he was even sitting like he was supposed to. He was even actually following the teacher's directions, and he didn't get $1. And then when it came time to have the class store and they got to use their dollars, guess who didn't have hardly any money? Poor Jed. And she says on the day of this class store, so I tried to give him some of my dollars, but my teacher said that that wasn't allowed, that you have to earn your own dollars. But I kind of feel like he did earn it, she just didn't notice. Does that hurt your heart? A little bit, that his efforts are not being validated? So you should have some behaviors in place, some tasks in place for which students can automatically be paid so that that doesn't happen to your kid. Will you also write, allow students to set their own pace of reinforcement? This is my favorite one. Annie?
Sorry, this is back, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
So they automatically get paid, do they have to automatically get paid every single time? Or can it be intermittently?
If it were me, if it's an automatic payment, I would do it every time.
Okay.
Every time you turn in your homework, there's $1.
Okay.
Every time I see that planner, there's $1,
Yeah.
if it were me. When I say set their own pace of reinforcement, this is my favorite part of individual rewards. When I saw this, you guys, I'm not exaggerating, I got tingles. I saw this in a teacher's classroom and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the answer I've been looking for individual reinforcement. This is how you solve so many problems. So the teacher displays a cost of privileges or items that the kids can purchase with their money or their tickets. This is what it looks like. So I saw this in a first grade classroom. She has this posted right by the door. Spelling with teacher pens, 10 cents. Homework pass, 30 cents. iPad time, 30 cents. The one that she said they all choose every time, bring show and tell from home, 20 cents. Sure, you can bring something and talk about it in front of the class, but it's gonna cost ya. So they earn these coins. By the way, I wouldn't do coins, I would do dollar bills because they're so much easier to manage and track, but whatever. Once they earn the money, they can decide when they want to make a purchase. Because guess what? kids need varying levels of reinforcement. Is that surprising to anyone? Some kids need reinforced really frequently, really often, even if it's a little trinket. Other kids are okay to wait and wait and wait and prolong the reinforcement, prolong contact with the reinforcement for a little while. So it's okay to say, sure, you want to come and help me with the projector? Give me 15 cents. Or you can save up 30 cents and get something larger. I'm not necessarily recommending these as what you give your students, but I love, love, love the idea that you have the cost of certain privileges posted and that they can cash in when they want. You know what it means? No more class store. Yay! Can we cheer? Maybe you don't hate it the way I do. No more class store. Yay! You don't have to manage it. You don't have to supply it. They can work toward privileges. Okay, last part, require purchases at convenient times of day. Because let's imagine this nightmare. Let's suppose I have my class dollars and I say, Chelsea, you have been right with me the whole time, little lady, I'm loving it. Pass that down, she got $1. And then she realizes, oh, now I have 15, I can do a show and tell. And I had it in my backpack because I was so excited for this day, so she's gonna freak out. Miss Smith, I have $20, can I do my show and tell? Guess what your answer should be? I haven't called on you. Okay, well, let's suppose we're interacting. The answer would be, oop, not yet. You can talk to me, this is what I would do. You could talk to me about that before school or at afternoon recess. Those for me would be the 2 times that were convenient for me to allow a kid to cash in on a reward. So let's suppose she comes to me at afternoon recess and she says, I have $20. Perfect. You can bring your show and tell for tomorrow, or we can do it right after recess today if you already have it in your backpack. But then she and I would talk about a time that was appropriate. Just because they earn it right then doesn't mean they cash in right then. Do you agree with that? Okay. And then I had a note that it must also be convenient to distribute and store the reinforcers. So the money here is kept in a class wallet. Here's what I would not do. This is the reason I point this out, because I was in a 4th grade classroom once where the teacher passed out coins during instruction, and, to reward kids being with her. And as she passed, I'll just use these. As she passed out the coins, here's what happened. That's like only mildly disruptive, right? That you can hear that, that's okay, maybe. But then what happened is that the kids were getting inside their desks and they were pulling out their baby food containers and they were taking off the lid and they were clanking the lid down. That wasn't as loud as I wanted it to be. And they were putting the coin in, and then they were putting the lid back on, and they were putting it back in their desk and moving things aside, and multiplied by 10 kids that were doing this. Guess what it sounded like? Make some noise. It was disruptive. It was annoying. Here's what I would do if it were me. First of all, I'm only doing dollars. That's what I would do. You can do something different. It's not bad, but this is just what I would do. If I give you $1, you leave it on your desk. Tori, right with me. She's been watching closely, taking notes. I'm loving it, little lady. Thank you. Natalie, you too. Okay, you have my rule in my classroom. You have to leave that on your table until the lesson is over. When the lesson is over, then you can put it away. Plus, guess what that does for me as the teacher? It gives me a visual, did you say cue, Jill? Yes. It gives you a visual cue who I've given money to and who I've left out. Poor Chad, he hasn't gotten $1 all night, and he's been right with me. Chad, dude, I better give that to you, right? Because if they leave it on their desks, it's easy to see who's been reinforced, who hasn't. Why use 1s and not 5s for individual? Idea? I thought this was brilliant. 5th grade teacher that I worked with said she only did 5s for class money. She only did 1s for student money so that they couldn't steal from the class wallet. If they had a 5, she knew it wasn't theirs. They didn't genuinely earn it. Quick tip. Okay, so let's do, as a close, we're going to say, whole class rewards you must have. Ready? Whole class rewards you must have. My turn first. Small group rewards are okay. Small group rewards are okay. Individual rewards are also okay. Individual rewards are also okay. If you find that your whole group reward system isn't enough to shape the behavior into what you want it to be, then you can try the small group and individual.